Thank you to Ian Foster for requesting this episode. Welcome to Conlang Critic, the show that gets facts wrong about your favorite Conlang. I'm Jan Miesely, and in this episode we'll be looking at the language that's Greenlandic, but for wolves, Wolflandic. Wolflandic is an artlang created by Ian Foster in 2016, and was heavily influenced by Greenlandic. You might have noticed that Ian Foster also happens to be the person who requested this episode. Technically, he requested that I review either Wolflandic or Hardonian, but Wolflandic is the more popular of the two, so I went with that one. The point is, Ian Foster is watching this, which means I can address him directly. That said, hi Ian, I hope you're ready for some constructive criticism. I know you're currently working on new Wolflandic, so hopefully I can give you some advice on how to make that as good as possible. As usual, I'm starting with phonology. Wolflandic's consonants are b, d, g, g, p, t, k, ts, ts, ch, k, z, z, y, r, f, th, s, sh, v, l, y. The phonology is the only aspect of Wolflandic where the changes made for New Wolflandic are currently available. So here are the consonants for New Wolflandic. Wait, what? Is this really what you wanted? Okay, so first of all, you really need to use the IPA. The IPA makes conlanging so much easier. Like, you have 6 alveolar stops in New Wolflandic, and I cannot for the life of me tell what the difference between soft T and soft D is. To me, it really sounds like you're making the same sound for both of them, but if you used the IPA to define them, I'd be able to tell exactly what sounds they're supposed to be. Second of all, why do you have 6 alveolar stops? Seriously, you only have 1 bilabial stop and only 1 uvular stop, so why do you have so many alveolar stops? You wanted to make Wolflandic like an Eskimo language, right? Well, fun fact about Eskimo languages, there isn't a single one with 6 alveolar stops. In fact, the overwhelming majority, including Greenlandic, have exactly 1. I think you may have overthought this just a little bit. Okay, if you ever decide you want to redo Wolflandic's inventory, here's a good set of consonants for you to start with. The ones in italics are the ones where it makes just as much sense to keep them as it does to remove them. Honestly, most of the changes you made for New Wolflandic's consonants make a lot of sense, like getting rid of the glottal stop and merging TZ with TS, but the new stop sounds are really extraneous. Okay, now for the vowels. I, U, I, O, E, A, And here's the vowels used in New Wolflandic. I'm not including the diphthongs, by the way. These vowels aren't nearly as messy as the consonants. Personally, I would have gone with a 3-vowel system, but this still works. I don't actually have that much to say about the orthography. It's pretty straightforward. A couple of things are a little weird, but it's all completely naturalistic. No real complaints there. Alright, let's look at the grammar. One of the main features of Wolflandic is that it's polysynthetic, so entire phrases are combined into single words. For example, the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog is a sentence with 3 words, which mean the quick brown fox jumped over and the lazy dog. This system produces these long, intimidating words that are actually quite simple if you know how to break them down. The only problem I have with it is that under the surface, it's pretty Englishy. If you put spaces between the roots in these words, the sentence would be almost one-to-one with its English equivalent. The last thing to look at is the vocabulary. Wolflandic's vocabulary is kinda weird. There's a whole lot of words that are taken directly from other languages, mainly English and Esperanto. I'm assuming that this was to make it easier to learn. It doesn't really matter, but it would be great if the vocabulary was either completely original or completely borrowed, rather than a weird mix between the two. That brings us to a new segment on the show called How You Can Conlang Better Next Time, which will replace the ranking section on episodes about languages made by people in the audience. So, Ian Foster, here's how you can Conlang better next time. First, keep the phonology simple. The more sounds you have, the harder things will be. Second, don't be afraid to mix things up a little. Try to specifically exclude features that are in English, and see what things you can come up with to replace them. Third, make sure you know who you're making your language for, and allow every step of the language making process to be informed by what you think they'd like the most. This applies even more if it's a language you're making for your own use. And fourth, I'm serious dude, you gotta use the IPA, it makes things so much easier. Thanks for watching, sorry about the wait, and I'll see you next time where I'll be reviewing K-Bop.